Speaking of the wrestling news and getting the wrestling news correct and timely and fashionably like you do at the wrestling news, other people have been sending out wrestling news lately that may be premature, incorrect, all of the above, forged even, Snagglepuss. Poor old Uncle Dave had a rough weekend, didn't he? He trended on the Twitter for, as they say, all the wrong reasons because he keeps getting wrong. And I'm just, do we need to do some kind of welfare examination on Dave to make sure that he's all right? He's just taking things and running with them these days, running like his head's on fire. You know what I'm talking about. You're probably, as we speak, looking up these various items so that we can comment on them.
You know, it's sad, actually, what's been going on. And, you know, there are different levels of people in this whole story. You know, you and I was involved and I got to see things, and that's why I think what I do. You had your issues with Dave. And then there are a lot of people who kind of manufactured issues with Dave because it's a business strategy. And that got things going. And he's been under the microscope. And at the same time, I don't know who advised him on this strategy of just being a condescending prick on Twitter. But he's like that to everyone. If someone compliments him, he'll like quote tweet him back. And they have to say, did he insult me or is he agreeing with me? I don't even know.
Imagine what he does when you don't agree with him to begin with. You got to learn something. People who learn things about the changing of the learning of the, he's insufferable.
Yeah. And in the midst of all this, if we're going to really be honest about it, his business model is dying. The print observer is dead. The subscription observer is all there is now. By the time that comes out, the news stories are all out. So then you're really talking about just wanting Dave's analysis and Dave's writing. I will be very honest. I'm someone who grew up reading The Observer, and there are a lot of things he wrote that I thought were great. There may be some people that thought the Kevin Sullivan bio was good. I thought it was a mess. Not just because, for whatever reason, it seemed like he had a chip on his shoulder about Kevin. He kept putting him down. The only people that thought Kevin was creative were the people he charmed. But it was all over the place.
It's incoherent.
Yeah.
I'm in agreement with you that the sad to say the obituaries of the wrestling legends used to be, for a lot of people, the not most enjoyment, but the most valuable observers, because he did a good job encapsulating these people's careers with the not only the research he's done, but the network that he's got of people that do research, that you could put together a really incredible timeline of a guy's career. There's no timeline, there's no line. It's not linear anymore. It's babbling as he thinks with no thought to proofread a goddamn line before you just hit send, as the kids say.
Yeah, and I first noticed that got really bad a few years ago when Butch Reed died, because I know my Mid-South wrestling pretty good. And I was reading that thing and it was bouncing from one year to another in the same paragraph. You couldn't follow what he was trying to say, and then sometimes you get the small things wrong, but that's, I guess, neither here nor there.
But it's gone from a kind of a tribute to a wrestling legend to a collection of rambling thought processes that tail off into tangents that aren't even related to the guy that just died.
He now denies, or, you know, maybe he always has, that he gives AEW any favorable treatment or treats them any different or criticizes them any less, not realizing Well, go ahead.
What did you see the factoid that Bryan Danielson had never had a 5-star match before he went to AEW. Now he's got 8 of them. Every time he breaks his arm, it adds a star, I guess.
And again, to keep up with the times, the star rating system went from what Dave thought of a match, which is what it always was, which is why the Andre Hogan match was negative stars, which is why Rock Hogan was only 3.5 stars. It was what Dave thought. It became, I rated it high because even though I hate the match, other people liked it. It was perfect for another audience that I'm not a part of, but I'm going to try to understand by giving their matches high stars. And look at the state of AEW, and you could look at the influence of Dave over AEW, and over Tony. And you can wonder how big of a problem that is. But again, going back to their business model, all of a sudden the Observer website raises their rates. They had free shows, they had free podcasts that they had brought behind their paywall. They have a message board, which, I mean, everyone kind of knows is a shit show. It's a complete shit show. And that's where this story will eventually end up here today and take hold. But in this whole climate, Dave, under the microscope, because of the way he's behaving and the way people have been looking at him, reported that Afa, the wild Samoan, or one of the wild Samoans, passed away, I believe, a day before he did. He saw, I believe he said that he saw other people's posts and ran with it without fact-checking it or going with it. But he's a high-profile reporter, and he went with it, and it was almost instantly proven wrong.
By the family.
By the family, yeah.
And where they're going through enough at the time, right? Without people, as somebody whose word that people are still taking, you know, basically it kills off the family member early, and they've got to hear this on social media when they know it's imminent, but it ain't happened yet. And how do you, if you are, I can understand some dipshit on pro wrestling under the covers and in the dark under a manhole, whatever the fuck.com.
I have sources.
You know, but when you're holding yourself up as, and some people still consider you, despite your, you know, strange fucking mental quirks over the last few years, the preeminent journalist, don't you make sure from somebody who would fucking know? And maybe even ask two people if you're going to report somebody's death.
And, you know, this goes back to the changing wrestling media business model, the dying wrestling media business model of old. I think right now, for a lot of the people out there who are making their money on selling the news that is instantly available seconds after they have it behind their paywall, I think you kind of have a rush to jump on a story and be first. And a rush to be the first person to say something or the one to get the most retweets. And I don't know if that was one of the things that drove Dave, but Dave, again, very consciously is very active on Twitter. And
very antagonistic.
Yeah.
Not even to people who are saying, well, fuck you, but just, you know, people, well, no, don't you think, Dave, that, well, fuck you, and here's why. I don't even do that unless you're a Republican.
And by the way, for someone who spends so much time lecturing everyone on their ability or inability to learn and how you always have to learn, and he's just trying to teach, and he knows all this because he's been paying attention for so long and he's been covering it. What about his business? You know, he likes to talk about everyone else going with the pat hand. How long did Dave go with the pat hand with the Observer? And now it's in a state that maybe he has to act like this to try to drum up attention. But the Alpha story happened and Dave got killed for it. The next one, I'll let you decide if he fairly got criticized for it. It was, I believe, the day after or so. He reported in the Observer, here's a quote, "The deal is they're trying to have Jacob Fatu completely avoid Roman Reigns because everyone has to sell for Reigns and they want to keep Jacob Fatu special by not bumping around for Reigns. So he's going to be gone while Reigns is around until whenever the time is right to hook them up. I can't say he's not hurt, but everything that's happening was planned to happen. I can say that. As far as avoiding these...
So wait a minute, that means if he really is hurt that he intentionally said, I'm going to figure out some way to break my leg on purpose when I fucking... All right, go ahead.
As far as avoiding those two locking up for now until later, when they obviously lock up, I think they want Roman with Solo first, then Jacob Fatu after that.
Oh, God damn it.
Now, again, he reported this. When the match happened at the pay-per-view and Jacob Fatu did the spot where he went down and then Roman came out.
Yes.
You explained why that made sense and why it was necessary for him to sell, which is why you instantly thought he was selling, not that he was really hurt.
Yes. I didn't think they were going to keep him apart for 6 fucking months. I mean, people recover from brain surgery in that length of time. No, what, and maybe Dave heard our program and just misinterpreted, what I was saying, but no. And let me try to figure out how to, even though Jacob Fatu is the attention getter right now, all of his athleticism and blah, 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 they've still put Solo in the spot. Solo is not going to set Roman Reigns up for Jacob Fatu. It's going to probably be the other way around eventually. Or maybe they save a specific match between Roman and Jacob for later, whatever. But no, this was a way to reintroduce Roman, who couldn't get beat up on his return, both on pay-per-view and then on television. But now, as we've seen, and as we'll talk about when we get to SmackDown here in a minute, no, it was just his debut, his return debuts that he needed to be strong. Now they can get heat on him to juice up the story. So this was, going to be a short-term thing to give him his return pop. And then, if you notice, they dropped the lines, well, and you got Jacob Fatu hurt. I think Cody said that in one of the promos. And somebody else, one of the announcers, used the word, well, he's injured, but they didn't make a big deal out of it. They didn't show his, broken leg fucking x-rays or whatever. And obviously, he made a return the very same day that Dave
let me just
issued that missive, didn't he?
No, actually, let me correct that. Apparently, this was in the Observer the week before, because the tweet I'm looking at from Wrestle Talk with this quote is from August 13th. So that's before SmackDown, a couple days before it. And I believe maybe before Alpha.
Well, but the point is,
it's within the vortex, though.
And remember, Jacob was seen in a store or a hotel, wherever it was, with a walking boot on with another member of the Bloodline, and it got taken pictures of by the fans. Of course, they're going to see him. Who looks like that? You're going to recognize that motherfucker in the town the WWE just sold 15,000 tickets in or whatever. So, yes, they were working that to make sure that it looked legitimate, because why wouldn't you? But the point, this was never to be like a 6-month thing, and then Roman Reigns is going to blow through Solo, and then he gets Jacob Fatu. They've set Solo up as the guy in the part. Even if De Niro or Nicholson is playing the Jacob Fatu part, whoever is in the Solo part is going to be the money match with Roman in the most immediate future. Do you not agree?
I agree.
So it's not even knocking Jacob, but that's the way they've set it up. So this is what is happening. But I don't know what Dave would have been thinking. Like, oh, they've done this. They've introduced this guy. He's beating up everybody. He's no-sold nothing. And now we won't see him for 6 months? Well, how the fuck would you think that?
Yeah, and again, the finish of the match, like you said, he couldn't be walking around with Roman Reigns coming out. He had to be on the ground, incapable of getting up.
But nobody could have done that to him. He had to do it to himself, because if another person is going to incapacitate Jacob Fatu, it needs to be either Roman Reigns or Cody Rhodes, maybe.
Well, that was story 2. And then the big one, and this one is still an active story as we are recording, because Dave has not commented again on it, and he's going to have to. Meltzer said what retweeted this. This is from the Wrestling Observer newsletter Figure 4 message board. In a thread about Warner Brothers Discovery's negotiations with AEW's next TV deal, whatever it may be, here is a post from Dave. I saw an internal memo from Warner Brothers Discovery on the total value of AEW programming. It was $288,265,720 per year.
And 14 cents.
Based on ad revenue and 2% of TNT carriage rates, 2.5 of
Well,
TBS.
now hold on. Don't blow past that. For some of the listeners, the carriage rate is basically what TNT gets from the cable companies in order to be able to carry their network, and then they're attributing 2% of that to AEW's existence on the network, correct?
Correct, and 2.5 of TBS's rates and 3.0 of True TV's carriage rates. And
True
also,
TV? What the fuck's even on True TV?
Well, that's where Impractical Jokers was, and now they moved it to TBS, so it's obviously part of the Warner Brothers Discovery family. And also including purchasing of the pay-per-view franchise. However, it was a pay-per-view model indicated as similar to UFC, still $50 per show. It did list an ROH show as part of the value, a reality show, and Dynamite, Rampage, and Collision, and pay-per-views. AA. It looks like he just typed the letter A a couple times here. So it's a lock.
Maybe he's got a notation on a meeting he needs to go to.
So it's a lock. Ring of Honor has been talked about, and pay-per-view has been talked about. Also, TBS is estimated to make $91 million this year in ad revenue for Dynamite. This is all based on a rating estimate for Ring of Honor and Q2 ratings for the existing shows, and 137,500 average pay-per-view buys in 2024. So again, it started off with, I saw an internal memo from Warner Brothers Discovery on the value of AEW programming.
And then it goes through all those various numbers that you read off and confused most people with because it's just gibberish after a while, but very specific in what Dave learned from this secret document.
Internal memo
that he was able to uncover. And Brian, would you like to now tell the cult of Cornette, the people out there, where the internal was that this document came from?
Well, pretty soon after Dave posted that, someone on Twitter with the handle Let's Get Upset tweeted to Dave, "Hey, Big Dave, if this is what you are referencing on the board," with a copy of the graph, the image here, the chart with all the numbers, some guy who claims he works in advertising, in an advertising adjacent field, made this up and posted it on a random Discord several months ago. If you look at the math as well, you can see whoever originally made it just took the article about SmackDown's ad rates estimates, and then cut them for AEW's ratings. No consideration for time slots, cable versus network, etc. Just an absolute amateur job. Basically, anyone who saw this months ago and believed it is extremely naive and doesn't look into information at all. It is all very recognizable from the get-go that it is suspect. And it has it here, and the numbers match what Dave said pretty much to the T. But there are things that would stand out about it. Under one of the columns here is estimated AEW percentage, and then in parentheses it says guess. Like, what the fuck?
Well, now, to be fair, I bet a lot of the real internal AEW documents talk about, well, we guess.
So here's Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics apparently discussed this. This was sent to us. Now, he gets along with Dave, obviously. He's thanked every week in The Observer. He does a lot of work, tries to be taken seriously. Here's what he had to say about Dave's post.
Programming being $288,265,720 per year. He goes into a lot of other details in this message board post that are exactly similar to a really interesting estimate that a listener did and shared with me, and I understand has shared it elsewhere. And I think somehow, just to correct, I think what's happening here, I think Dave has understood this estimate that a listener, that somebody did and did a good job of. I think he's understanding this estimate to be an internal memo somehow. All these details matching so exactly is pretty astronomical. I have pointed this out to Dave as well.
The odds! odds are astronomical.
Yeah, and Dave Meltzer has responded to all of this on his message board. I'm trying to see if there's anything here posted that he actually has responded to this.
Do we know? Because who brought this to? Because if you just saw somebody posted this on Twitter, would you think it was just automatically think it was an AEW internal document or posted on a message board or whatever? Wouldn't someone have to come to you if you were a level-headed person, someone that would have access to an AEW internal document and say this is the numbers that they're talking about? Or how did he find this and just automatically assume, oh shit, this is an unpublished Shakespeare manuscript?
The only thing Dave has said so far on his message board, the place where he actually posted this, after he started getting criticism from even those people about the fact that he did exactly what everyone's been accusing him of for a while, quite frankly. Running with something that wasn't true without checking anything, just running with it. And he posted, "I'm taking this down for now." And that's the last he has said about the issue. Now, again, earlier this year, he reported on something WWE was doing with The Rock and Triple H based off a video from 10 years ago. He reported that Shibata had his brain removed from his body and inserted back in.
But we have not been able to disprove that happened.
But he reported that. I believe he got fooled by someone with phony Dragon Gate stories a year ago. I could tell you from little tiny things I've been involved in, he reported part of things that were true and then got things wrong. And again, this is part of an environment where the Observer has competitors and all of their business models are dying. And they all have to figure out how to adapt to the new world. So it's sad. But Dave's kind of doing this to himself, and he needs to explain why he ran with this as an internal memo. Who sent it to him? Was it a source? Was it a source who works for Warner Brothers Discovery? Because it wouldn't be an AEW memo, it would be their memo. It would be Warner Brothers Discovery's memo. So Dave has a lot of explaining to do, but this is a really bad run at a time where he causes people to not want to give him the benefit of the doubt because of his behavior. And, he was so stubborn for so long about Jim Cornette said that AEW was going to go out of business. He was wrong. He needs to apologize. We played the audio. Dave needs to apologize. Jim said if they don't change things up, they're going to have problems. Then they changed things up. Tony took the book completely.
And then they got bigger problems.
Dave's been wrong about numerous things in every single promotion. Here's another story. I knew someone that in the past has had involvement with TNA and Impact and doesn't anymore, but still has friends there. And they couldn't believe how wrong Dave was after D'Amore got removed. Remember, it was like Tommy Dreamer's now running creative, and then he had to walk that back. No matter what the company is now, Dave's getting stuff wrong. He's running with it. And then on the other end, his historical features are now just rambling, incoherent messes.
And again, I point out that years ago, he cared more, I believe, about telling the truth or reporting the truth, and would even say when, this match kind of sucked, when it sucked. But over the past number of years, not only has he wanted to appeal to the niche audience that is the AEW faithful for that kind of goofy, silly, phony wrestling and champion that, because that's the people apparently that were still listening to him and paying him his money. But at the same time, he's melted down mentally to where he just acts weird to normal people on Twitter. He's never been a heel fucking wrestling personality, but now he's playing one. And at the same time, he can't get a grip on, sometimes his predictions just aren't going to come true, but he won't admit it.
There's right now an article on Forbes by Alfred Kanua. Dave Meltzer's internal memo gaffe caps a week of faulty reporting.
Oh, good Lord.
So there you go. Whoever reads Forbes, that's what they're going to see. And, Dave has spent so much time since the beginning of AEW, slightly before that, when people criticized the people he was buddying up to on the indies because he was hoping that they would help propel his business into the future. He pointed the fingers at a lot of people. This person's out of touch. This person's a fraud. This person's this. Just look at the facts of what he has said that's been proven wrong since that time. Because it seems like at some point, some sort of weird midlife crisis hit and everything changed. Because that is the way it seems. And you got to also separate, there are people who have an agenda to attack Dave because it's a business model. It's a podcast business model to attack Dave Meltzer. You also have to look past the people that are just jealous of Dave. Fucking Dave Shearer has been jealous of Dave Meltzer, insanely jealous since the summer of '95. You have to look past some of these people and just look at Dave's actual behavior. And it's for people who are longtime supporters of The Observer and admirers of his work, it's a sad decline. It really is.
But sooner or later, Dave, everybody ends up out of touch. You're out of touch. You're out of time. But you're out of your head because they took out your brain.
No, they didn't take out his brain. He reported that.
They took the other guy's brain. All right.
They took out his tongue.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, they put it back in, but I think they stuck it back in backwards. Anyway.
No, but seriously, you know what? That is a big thing. If you look at it seriously, it's the changing business model that's affecting everyone, affecting all media. And it's affecting wrestling media a little differently because you have hardcore fans that will pay for access to something that will be up for free momentarily. It's a changing model, and it's going to be tough for a lot of these people to adapt to it, I think.
But you know what? Uncle Dave is my age. Isn't he a year older than me, maybe?
I think he's older than you, yeah.
Somewhere around that. Just put your feet up, baby. Just kick your feet up. Why is he so grasping at the notoriety and fame and financial remuneration that is the Wrestling Observer empire? Just retire. Put your feet up. Sit a spell. Take your shoes off. Don't come over here now, you hear?
Go book with Tony.
Go book with, there you go. He can hire Dave to be the booker.